Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Boys. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we're picking up with Edgar deciding that he wants to put Homelander in his place because obviously he's walking around big hot shot, thinking that he's in control, and Edgar's like, no, we need to put him in his place, and he wants to use Victoria to do it. It's like, right, we're going to sanction him with some stuff, hit him with this and that, nothing too big, but it's like, right, to spank him and put him back into place. But it's like, I don't know how long Edgar thought that would work, because I guess he figured Homelander would always be a dog on a leash. I don't know where Edgar has gotten that confidence from that he could keep him on a leash. I mean, I guess it's also because, I guess you can make the argument, the same things that Nina said about Frenchie last episode. Was that episode 3 or was that episode 2? No, that was episode... Yeah, that was episode 3. I think. Those same aspects apply to Homelander. He always moves from one person kind of holding his leash to another. I mean, because he's driven by his incessant need to be loved. So it went from Madeline to Stormfront to now, it's always been the public, but even more so the public because he needs their love more so than anything. Even to the point he's forcing Starlight. It's like, because he, his relationship with Maeve, they've touched on it a little bit. This episode, they kind of touch on it even more, but it's like, right, Maeve was just kind of arm candy, essentially. Just kind of, his basically a prop. That's what people are to him. He sees Starlight as that, too. You're just a means to an end. Like, I don't care if the love is real. I'm going to force you to love me, or I want you to fake it. I don't care if it's real or not. You're going to love me, and because the more you love me, the more the public's going to love me too. So that's the real rub of it all. So, but Victoria was reluctant regardless. Victoria was reluctant to go down this route, but Stan's like, no, don't worry, I got you. I'll protect you. And Zoe, the moment he said that, was like, man, you're not going to be able to protect him. Like, I'm like, are you overplaying your hand here? And so all the while that's happening, that's being set up. The Seven are obviously embracing Supersonic as part of their members, and because initially A-Train brought it up to Ashley about the whole Blue Hole thing, and it's like, Ashley, we've always been about social justice or something like that, and A-Train's like, since when? She's like, Black Lives Matter is my favorite hashtag. I was like, Jesus, don't say that. She's like, you look at my Instagram, it's all black screens. I was like, is that supposed to be like a reference to like when everyone like had those like the kind of the blackout with wasn't it like black squares or something on everything, like people's Instagrams and like social media and stuff like that, if I remember correctly. I don't know if that's supposed to be like a reference to that. And just A-Train's not buying it because she's just like, yeah, we'll cover this at a later time. And he brings it up at the meeting of the Seven. And I don't know if Homelander would have been down for the idea, but who knows? Because the Deep definitely put a kibosh in that real quick. But he wouldn't have otherwise. The only reason why he did is because Sandra was like, no, do this, because it's like, cool, you do something like that. It's like, no, this will hurt your base. And even Homelander went, oh wow, that's actually really smart of you to say to Deep. And then like Deep looks at his wife, and you're just like, yeah. So he's just doing what everyone else wants. He's Homelander's fuckboy, and he's also, his wife is she's the one pulling all the strings. Once again, I guess it's like, she has that mentality of just like, right, I'm in this situation, I got the power now. Who knows if that's always been a part of her? Well, maybe that's before the church, maybe the church brought that out of her, but either way, she's definitely going to be a force to deal with. Just like, once again, just proving just how the Deep is just... I even love later on A-Train is like, really? I'm taking orders from the Deep? The fucking Deep? He's always been the runt of the Seven. No one takes him seriously. But now that he's like, Homelander's like, right-hand guy to some extent. I doubt Homelander would look at it. But it's like, oh, you're kind of my... You're my punk that I get to tell what to do and you'll happily do it. Because, like, unlike there are other people who will talk shit about Homelander. The Deep is the only one who's like, no, man, we're good. He knows that the Deep will always come to heel, essentially, you know? Whereas everyone else is like, oh, they're willing to badmouth me, but even they're not brave enough to go all the way, but it's still enough of a way that it's just kind of the Deep's on a different level of just like, he knows like, no, you're so low down the totem pole that like, I don't have to worry about you. Like, I don't have to worry about the others, but they can be a nuisance. You're always going to like heal when I say heal. You're going to do what I say. When I say jump, you're always going to be how high. So, and that led to their tussle. And I love Deep being like, challenging him, being like, I'm going to be the one to tell Homelander who leaked all that stuff about Stormfront. He's like, and then I'm going to be the one to tell him who gave that video to Maeve and fished it out. So it's like we both got dirt on each other, punch to the gills, and they tussle a little bit. And even then, you know, Homelander choosing Deep, being like, stay down there, A-Train, rest your useless fucking legs. So it's like, man, he's just kind of put in his place no matter what. You kind of felt bad for A-Train in this episode because he also had to do that commercial, which is supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be, it's the first thing that comes to my mind. It's supposed to be a commentary on that commercial from a couple years ago. Was it, it was either Kylie or Kendall, one of them, I believe. Or what, it wasn't Kim or anything. It wasn't Kim, was it? I think it was Kylie or Kendall. Might have been Kendall, did a commercial for Pepsi where it's just kind of like, this fighting is like, let's come together over a Pepsi. It's a direct commentary on that. But to me, because I know like she caught a lot of flack internet-wise. I don't know if there's anyone that supported. I think she caught a lot of flack for just like, cringe, you know? That whole thing. So, but this takes it a step further because it's not just like, you're endorsing another product. You're endorsing a product with your face. It's your energy drink. So it makes it even worse, you know? So it's like, especially for him because he is trying to do some good, because when he brought the Blue Hawk thing up, the person who immediately said something was, Starlight, because she cares. She's like, oh my God, that's terrible. He's like, thanks, Starlight. Because he knows at least she cares. Black Noir obviously puts no input in. But then you have everything, and at least Maeve kind of walks by and touching him on the shoulder, like, I get it, you want to do some good, but this ain't the place to try and do good. I mean, she's got her own plans. The reason why we haven't seen much of Maeve, she's been keeping it low key because she's been training. She's making it seem like everyone thinks like she hasn't been training. I haven't been drinking. I've been fighting. I've been training myself up because she let Starlight know, like, right, Butcher and them are trying to find the weapon, right? I'm the one that's sitting them down that path. They're going to need, if I can get Homelander distracted for a second or two, maybe I could give Butcher the time to put a bullet in him to put him down. So that's what she's getting ready for. And Starlight's like, right, if we can get together. But for Maeve, it's like, no, this is my problem. I'll deal with it on my own. Because I think, once again, when she looks at Starlight, she sees who she used to be. This bright-eyed, bushy-tail, like, oh my God, like, this is so wonderful, seeing the beauty and how great everything, the good you can do, until she was beaten down and broken down by just, like, Homeland. That's even more reason why she's like, no, this is my problem. I have to be the one to do it. Because it's not just, the Flight, was it 37 thing, was just the most recent things. It's just Homelander broke her down in many different regards, and that's the thing where she believes, like, almost, she doesn't believe that she deserves to live, which I think that makes her and Butcher a little bit of a parallel to each other too, because Butcher kind of gets into this episode about, this ain't power, it's punishment. We'll get to that later, but the same thing, like Maeve's punishing herself, because not only Flight 37 thing, I think there's just so much she left Homelander unchecked for so long. She let him run rapid, and now, like, that egomaniac is where he is now. Like, maybe she's like, maybe if I'd stopped things, if I'd done things beforehand, if I hadn't just been trying to preserve myself, look out for my best interest. She doesn't even have Elena anymore in her life. I mean, we don't know where things kind of stand there, but for her, she's trying to do the right thing, even if it costs her life. She's willing to do this. She has to do this. So there's all of that. Once again, back to the whole Homelander thing, that whole interview with Cameron where he's like, oh yeah, the people in power. He's like, yeah, they're just people pulling the strings behind everything. The fact is that, there's some people at Vought and stuff like that, like controlling the narrative and such. Like I said, meanwhile, Starlight's getting supersonic on her side because it's like, hey, she's still reluctant for him to be a part of all this, but he's saying the reason why he's doing this because she's always been someone who knew what the right thing to do is, and for him that's all there is to it. Which part of me wonders, like, he was saying like, I'm fucking with you, but I'm like, maybe the whole thing about like, right, her being the only girl he's ever loved, maybe there still could have been some truth to that. So, but he's in on this, and he's the one that brings A-Train into fold. The moment that was all going down, I was immediately like, somebody's going to buckle under this. I don't know who. I should have figured it was going to be A-Train, but I knew someone was going to buckle. There's no way this whole secret operation of going after Homelander, there's no way that was going to happen. They must not have told they must not have told A-Train everything. Good thing they didn't, because it seems like the only people who really knew everything was Supersonic, Maeve, and Starlight, and A-Train didn't know, must not, because later on he doesn't reference the weapon or anything like that. He knew that they were conspiring, but he didn't know what. But it's like there's a plan in play to kind of take him down. So when the conference comes up and like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I was like, is she going to back out at the last second? Which she did, but she didn't just back out. She threw Stan under the bus. I was like, yo! And even Maeve was like, what the fuck did you do? He's like, I kind of gave her out. And I was like, right. He probably threatened her and Zoe, because that was her main concern. But despite being a head popper, she doesn't even know for sure if her powers would necessarily work on him, you know? Because that was also the point Alex was saying, like, right, the guy's invincible, so who knows if that would have actually, the head popping would work on him. Now, there's some stuff later on that might imply, like, oh, we might have a means there, but we'll get to that later when we talk about what the boys are up to. But I love that even Edgar, despite everything, he didn't see that coming. He's like, wow, I actually got blindsided by Victoria. That caught him off guard, and so now Edgar's just, and he's like, why did you do that? And she's like, you never protected me. I was the one always protecting you. And I got to look after me and Zoe because you're putting me in that psychopath's sightlines. Because I guess it's also, I assume like Homelander had gotten to her, but I was like, how would he know to even get to her? So I was wondering about that. So, but then we later on find out when he visits Victoria, he gave her something. And I was like, what the hell is he giving her? Well, because it turns out he found a file from Edgar on her. I guess like all the kills or maybe some of the stuff from her childhood, potentially killing her biological parents, most likely by accident because she couldn't control her powers. So maybe that's what that's in reference to. That file that Edgar kept on her, and it's like, oh, he was always going to like screw you over at some point in time if need be. I guess the gun was always locked and loaded, and it was only a matter of if he needed to ever pull the trigger on it. At least that's how Homelander's presenting. But he's like, yeah, like how else do you think I found out about you being one of us? He's like, it's a good thing you did what you did, Vicky. Not even calling her Victoria, calling her Vicky. Like, oh, we're super tight knit. I can call you by a shorthand name. And it's like, yeah, we're in this together. Good thing you chose your own side in this. So kind of almost this, he's almost playing some very like Magneto level element here, where it's just kind of like, yeah, we've got to choose our own in this war. You know, we are better than humans. We are gods amongst men. So, well, if anything, like even if superheroes were regarded as gods, which he thinks they are, he's still a top god. Once again, he even compared himself to Jesus. So, but it turns out the thing Victoria got from him was Compound V. I guess to protect her daughter, so that it's like, right, I can make sure she's never hurt, is that she ends up injecting her with Compound V to make sure she's always going to be protected. So the question I'm wondering, because that presents something interesting, because I don't think it's come up across anything. I don't know if the comics ever covered this, but is superpowers in this continuity hereditary? Because her daughter didn't already have powers. So either one, Compound V doesn't pass on from generation, so it's not hereditary, or that's not her biological daughter. That might be her adopted daughter. She herself was adopted, so maybe she was a lot more open to adoption. Because part of me wonders, like, could superheroes be sterile? Because I don't know if we've come up with anything about Supes having kids. I don't know if that's come up yet. Oh, never mind. I'm stupid. Of course Supes have kids. I'm completely forgetting about Ryan. So it's possible So powers are hereditary. So that must her daughter's adopted it. Okay, never mind. I answered my own question. I was getting so caught up in it. I was thinking that the entire time, and I completely forgot about we already have an example of it. Ryan, though he's the only next generation soup in this universe that we're aware of. I think I could be mistaken. Yeah. So yeah, it's like right. Powers are hereditary, so that means that's her adopted daughter. So that's because it's one thing because all of them got their powers when they were babies because of the whole Compound V thing, but well. We don't know when Soldier Boy got his powers, like whether he got his at a young age. Well, because we know like Stormfront was older when she got hers as well. So who knows at what point they started doing the whole like, oh, getting them when they're young, when they're babies. Who knows? But I would assume it'd probably be. I mean, it'd suck either way, but I'm sure like it's even more painful as an adult. I don't know. Plus, she's also gonna get acquainted with said ability, so. That's definitely going to be interesting to see where things kind of go on that front. But Homelander confronting Edgar, I was legitimately scared for Edgar the entire scene. I'm like, dude, he could snap and just kill you. I'm like, once again, why does Stan Edgar have so much like confidence that he's not worried? It's like, no, I don't blame Victoria. She's played all sides like I told her. He's like, actually, I'm just surprised how much like me she is. And Edgar's just not flinching in front of him. He's just like, right, you expect me to be scared of you. You want me to respect you. Why would I ever respect you? You're not worth respecting. I'm like, why do you have the confidence to talk shit? Because the conversation has been like, right. Some people wonder, like, does Edgar secretly have powers? The reason why he's so damn confident? Because he's like, no, fuck around and find out, Homelander. Because he's someone that's like, right, I don't need superpowers. I am powerful, but I don't need to flaunt my powers like you feel the need to walk around being this imposing figure. Maybe maybe he's always known that the whole... We'll talk about it later. Maybe he always knew the Soldier Boy thing was an option. So it's like, oh, if I've always known this option was available, I could always end you if I need to. But it's like, no, I'm going to let you do your thing. I'm going to let you try and handle this on your own. Because he's like, no, I'm fine with it. Like, I'm getting kicked out. I'm temporarily leaving. He's like, oh, yeah, it's eventually going to become permanent. And Edgar's like, I'm fine with it. Because at the end of the day, me being gone, you've now surrounded yourself with nothing but yes people. Because now everyone's going to do this and that for you. You won't have me around to clean up your messes for you. Now you've gotten rid of everyone that could. So when it's all said and done, eventually the public's going to see you for what you really are. Because he's thinking like, oh, they see me now. It's like, no. They think they see you. Once they see you for who you really, really are, it will be a completely different thing. Because yeah, you're saying all the right stuff now. You're like, yeah. It's like you're putting out the fluff of who you are. You're not showing him the real monster that you are. Because yeah, that video of you comes out. You even said like, I'll go complete psycho and I'll burn this country to the ground. I'll burn New York City to the ground if I need to. So you've already made that clear. So, but I love it. It's just like even Edgar walking away and he's just kind of like snapping a little because it's like he can't, even when he feels like, yeah, I won. I beat you, Edgar. I beat you. It's like, Edgar still walks away standing tall and proud, and you just feel like a little child. He keeps turning you into his son of like, yeah, like because he even says like, right, what am I supposed to praise you like a parent or something? It's like, no, you're a disappointment. That's all you've ever been. That's all you'll ever will be. You're nothing to be proud of. All you are is something we made, and just like walks away, and Mike drops and walks away, and Homelander just, Edgar turns into, let's face it, Edgar turns him into a punk, and just he can't like ever do anything. So it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, and that's the thing. You have the power. You could easily kill Edgar, but you choose not to because I guess it's like there's some part of you that's like, no, I want him around. I want to prove him wrong. To be fair, like every other person, it's like, well, the doctor who helped make you, well, he's dead, but you didn't do that. You screwed him up. Wasn't that him that put him in the wheelchair that he was in last season? You killed Madeline. But, like, despite all that, you won't and can't kill Edgar. That's what I find so fascinating. Like, why does he, once again, still hold all the cards? Like, despite you making everyone else bow down to you, that's the one person you can't? That's fascinating. I mean, even Huey tries to stand up to you because he's up there talking about, like, oh, what are you guys doing? Oh, Annie, you're kind of a sound sleeper, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, the way I'm able to get in here is because I have a key. I'm just kidding. It's like, I don't who knows how much of that is him playing, how much is him for real. And he's up there talking to Huey about like, oh, like, is she, Starlight, is she a good fuck? He's like, oh yeah, Maeve, she's very good at bending a pipe or a steel pipe or something like that. And Huey's just standing up to him, and Annie had to step in again, because after Huey made that declaration like, please let me save you this time, she had to save him again. She's like, you do anything, you touch him or anyone he cares about. He's like, I'm kidding. God, you two are so... and just Huey gets, feels lesser than, and I think it's a major influence into why he does what he does is the boys' side of things. But the final thing of the episode is, in the episode, but also this side of things is Homelander showing Starlight, oh, here's Supersonic. It looked like broke one of his legs off, if not lasered it off, and then like bashed his head in. And it's like, yeah, that's going to be Huey. So fall in line. No sneaking behind my back, doing whatever you want to, because you doing that, like, if I even get a hint of anyone working against me, I will kill Huey, and you will regret it. So say it. That will be Huey. And she has to say that will be Huey. He said, cool. Now find your own way off the roof. I was like, that's heartbreaking. It's like, wow. I mean, everyone was already saying, it's like, oh, poor Supersonic, poor Alex. He's super dead. I was thinking maybe later in the season, man, they were like, nah, we're gonna nip that in the bud right now. It's like, oh, and to find out A-Train, once again, should I be surprised? No. But the way A-Train was acting, I was like, maybe he'd wait a bit. It's like, nah, he immediately betrayed you guys. Because here's the guy who's in charge of everything. I don't know whether A-Train believes, like, no, this is how I get what I want, being in Homelander's favor. Because he's also afraid of Homelander. It's like, right. Like, the fact is, I'm not gonna be the deeps bitch. Like, Homelander's one thing, but I refuse to be the deeps bitch. So, like, all right, let's let me try and weasel my way in, because it's like, right, if I'm in good with him after, like, rooting all this out, maybe I'll have some of that power. So it's like, maybe he thinks by having Homelander more on his side, he can do good. So it's kind of similar to how Starlight was thinking with the whole co-captaining thing, thinking she could do good with it. I don't know. It's hard to 100% say what was in A-Tray's mind. Maybe there is the selfishness, obviously, but maybe in some aspects maybe he can justify it, but being like, oh, there's an element of selflessness that I'm trying to do the right thing, but I can only do that if I'm in Homelander's favor. But it's also like, once again, he fears Homeland. I don't know. I think there's so many different ways you can really interpret that. I'm curious to see what happens when Annie and A-Train come back around, because it's like, yo, you helped us take down Stormfront. You did this, and now Supersonic's dead. Especially after the fact is that we helped save your life in season 1 as well. Like, Huey could have easily just left you to die, but he still tried to make sure you didn't die after everything. And this is it. It's like, right, she has no choice, but she can't even stand up to A-Train, because going against him will be kind of still going against Homelander. And now it's like, right, they can't bring anyone else into the fold, because if they mix anyone else, they're dead. Huey's dead. But also, there's no winning against it. So she has to play her part, and she's just probably going to quietly do her thing while playing the role of Homelander's girlfriend, which is, like, heartbreaking, So we'll see where things kind of go on that front. Then on the other side of things, with the boys, they, Frenchie and Butcher meet up with Nina, which I did not realize this last episode. The actress who plays Nina, her name is Katia Winter. I didn't realize until I was looking through. I was like, oh, she played Ichabod's wife, Katrina, because I kept thinking Katarina, but it's Katrina in Sleepy Hollow. To be fair, she had red hair at the time, so I think, and it's been a couple years since because she was in like seasons 1, 2, and maybe 3 of Sleepy Hollow. So it's been a while, so that's probably why. But I didn't realize that was her. Which is interesting, because John Noble, who was also in Sleepy Hollow, was played Billy's dad last season. So it's just interesting on that level. I didn't realize that, but nevertheless, if I realized that last episode that that's who she was, I would have put that together even sooner. But regardless, despite all of Frenchie's reservations and being like, yo, we shouldn't do this, Butcher doesn't listen to him and works with Nina. It's like, right, you could get us access, you could get us to Russia, you can get us access to the weapon. I don't think he went too much into the details, but he's like, right, this is thing where, look, well, maybe he did, because she did point them in the right direction. So, but it's like, cool, despite all this money and everything, I need something. And it's like, what do you need? And she wants Sherry. It's like, it's the principle of the matter. And Frenchie's like, no, but he's like, oh, come on, we can find some wiggle room, which I thought that was implying like, oh, he's going to give her Frenchie. I thought that's what that was happening, but it's like, no. Basically, the end result is that Kimiko has to pull a hit for her. Because I know she did those hits for Sherry last season, but I don't remember. I guess those hits were for Nina, so that's why Butcher is like, no, you made too much of a good impression with those hits you did last season, so Nina's impressed and she wants you to be the one to handle the hits. So, and Butcher making it clear, like, you know, Frenchie doesn't want Kimiko to do it, Kimiko doesn't want to do it, she's like, I'm not your fucking gun. He's like, oh, I think you got this a little twisted and forgot. When I say you do something, you do it. I'm like, Butcher doesn't realize, you know, once again, to fight the monster, you have to become the monster. But Butcher was already there. At least he never treated the boys, you know, he treated them, obviously with Huey, he kind of like flip-flopped. But at least he treated them with some monochrome of respect. Obviously, like, he's had his issues with Kimiko in the past, but, like, you know, especially like season 1, obviously Frenchie was the only one that really latched onto her. But, you know, this season, he is a complete and utter asshole to everyone. And I love that MM's like, you can't do this. He's like, I came back for a reason, and you can't be a complete and utter asshole, which Butcher tried to justify, saying like, I'm not a complete and utter asshole. Do you know why me and the Colonel picked you? Because everyone, it wasn't because we heard about you knocking out your racist CO, you being strong and everything. Because you're a good leader. Like, why would we pick a grunt that was already in the brig? We chose you because we heard from every man that we ever asked that you were the heart of your unit. You kept it together, and that's the role you serve here. That, yes, I play the role of the complete and utter asshole. You're the one there to kind of you're the glue that holds the boys together, keeps everything good. But the problem is, because I think for Butcher, it's hard to say whether he legitimately believes his own bullshit. Whether he does legitimately believe that I'm not a complete and utter asshole because I brought you in, so there's some monochrome of me that isn't one. You know, that's that conversation that keeps coming back, because you are your father's son to some extent, and trying so hard not to be his father's son. And that was a whole back and forth between him and Mallory after the whole Ryan blow up last episode. And it's like, right, everything with Ryan, and now this. He's like, I have to play the role of an asshole. I have to do all of this because it's the only way to get stuff done. But you will be the conscience. You've always been the conscience of the team. He's the one that pulled Butcher back when it came to the whole Huey being his canary thing. But it's the point I made earlier, too, is Huey's not playing the role of a canary anymore. Huey's, like, right beside Butcher, hand in hand, with, like, going full steam ahead, because he now knows that Butcher's on temporary V. And it's like, does the rest of the team know? And then he's like, and Butcher's like, you can't don't tell the rest of the team or you're gonna be in a fucking coma. And then Huey says this line of like, well, yeah, you're fine. I didn't know whether he meant that like, oh man, obviously you seem fine, so there's no reason to tell them, or he's just trying to justify himself. Like, oh, okay, like once again, showing he's so much more in line with Butcher this season, being like, right, whatever it takes, right? To the point that he asked Butcher later on, when Butcher takes some of the compound to temporary V, he was like, hey, do you let me get some? And he doesn't want Huey to do it. And it's the line I brought up earlier of, this isn't power, this is punishment. So, and I'm wondering, like, how, because, yeah, this makes him sick. It isn't about him feeling powerful. He's like, it's me punishing myself, becoming the monster I hate to take down the monster I also hate. So it's, you know, becoming that monster to do this. I don't want you to do that, Huey, because he still sees Huey as his canary, and it's like, I don't want you to go down that route. There's no saving me. I'm already set in stone, but you don't have to be a piece of shit like me. I think is kind of where Butcher's going with that, so he didn't want Huey. But Huey's coming from the place of, I'm tired, you know, once again, like, I felt weak. Like, Homelander could have lasered me in front of Annie, and I couldn't do anything. Once again, she had to save me. Because that's the thing for Huey. he's felt so powerless for so long in his life, because he even says, like, right, it makes me feel like I'm being bullied again, you know, because it seems like when he was younger he got bullied. Then you add in, like, right, the whole A-Train thing. A-Train got away with, like, killing Robin, and obviously he's still, I'm sure, carrying that, and just everything's adding on, everything, one thing after another. The Newman thing, everything with Vought, it's just one thing compounding upon itself. Now Annie's in the heart of, you know, standing right beside the lion, and he can't do anything to help her. He's like, I have all this anger inside of me, and that's what fuels Butcher. Like, he's so angry, he needed an outlet, and once that's been the conversation again and again. Even if Homelander wasn't around, even if you kill Homelander, you're still going to need an outlet for that anger, because that anger that darkness has always been a part of you because of his father, you know. So his father's upbringing, everything between him and his losing his brother, and that's also why he wants to protect Huey, because Huey does remind him of his brother. You know, we really tackled that a lot more last season as well. And he almost, you know, Huey got badly hurt, and, you know, him and Starlight had to help him. What was that episode when they were at the that facility that Stormfront was looking after, where all those soups were, with Lamplighter and stuff. So them, like, helping Huey after all of that, it's just like he's already been in that situation where he almost saw Huey. And once again, I think that probably brought up a lot of stuff about his brother, and I think even this too, because probably when Butcher hears Huey talk the way he does, it's probably how his brother talked when it came to... Probably how his brother talked when it came to his when it came to their dad wanting to not feel powerless, wanting to be strong, and Butcher wanting to be strong for his brother's sake when it came to their father. So Kimiko goes off and does the mission, and the guy has all those vibrators and dildos, and I love that Kimiko wrecks shop, literally murders everyone in there with a dildo. And it's like, especially the last one, the vibrator, the Starlight one in particular, going to guy's neck and then, like, vibrating as he's dead. I'm like, oh, that's brutal. The first one's probably the most brutal one, just, like, going from the back of the guy's skull through his mouth and just massive dildo hole through your head. But the sad thing is, one of the girls shoots her. And in that moment, she's almost pissed, but then she has to back down because she's like, right, you're scared of me. And she's looking at herself covered in blood. It's like, right, she doesn't want to be that monster anymore. The monster that so many people made her into. So she did the job and left, and she's talking to Frenchie. For her, it's like Butcher, Nina, the Shining, whoever's, and I was like, oh, right, the group that took her and her brother when they were younger. It's like, right. Those people always controlled her, and she wants to get away from. She's like, they're all the same. So her and Frenchie is like, right, we need to get out of here. We could go away. And Frenchie's like, right, but we need to stay for Huey and MM's sake. You know, fuck Butcher, but we need to stay for their sake. So at least do this mission, and then we're gone. You know, we don't need to stick around anymore, because he doesn't want to see, because he knows how much this is eating away at her. Even later on, when she's killing those guards, she pauses for a second, looks so sad, because it's like, right, I'm all this death, all this killing, I'm tired of it. But when the time comes, they're out of ammo, Butcher steps up and does his thing, lasers people, and just when MM's in trouble, Huey teleports. It seems like that's his power. But it seems like he teleports out of his clothes because he probably can't control the power. So probably, like, once he learns how to control it, potentially he'll be able to bring his clothes with him. But because I think that little boy he saw at the orphanage had that power, that teleportation power. So he's probably very much like Nightcrawler and puts his fist through the guy. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But obviously MM and Frenchie and Kimiko are so disappointed in both of them. And even Huey's like, come on, guys, that was awesome. And I love that element, because now Butcher's seeing, like, wow, like, and especially what MM says at the end, like there is no team here, because Butcher saw to that. You've poisoned everything and everyone. Huey isn't even Huey anymore. He's losing some of himself and becoming more and more like you, which you didn't want that to happen. You wanted Huey to stay himself. And even to the point later on, Huey's looking at his hand and he's like, he's feeling himself, because he's like, for the first time in his life, he feels like he has the power. He feels good. And you can tell he's going to get potentially addicted to that. But like Butcher's disappointed in him. Even Kimiko being like, right, you didn't have to do this, because she's afraid that him doing this, it's like she knows what having powers is like. It's like, right, you look at it as a blessing, it's a curse. But for Huey, it's like, now I'm strong enough that I never have to have any, just like Robin, it's like, if I can protect Starlight, I feel powerful for the first time, And so, in the end, they end up opening the pod, and there's Soldier Boy. And obviously that look on MM's face where he's just kind of, I think he's back to being that little boy again when he lost his parents, when he lost his family. And it's just like, he didn't even fire on him. He just stood there, because I think he turned into that little boy again. It was just like, the man you've hated for so long, the man that consumed your father. Like, he's there in front of you, and it's just, you can't do anything. And I don't know whether he did it on purpose or just because he can't control it. He shoots a beam out of his chest. And I was like, right, based on what we saw in the past, he didn't have that power. So I'm like, they made him that way. So they must have been working on a means of giving Soups extra powers on top of what they already have. But then when Kimiko got blasted, she wasn't healing. And you're like, that's what makes him the ultimate weapon now. He has the power to either temporarily or permanently make Soups human. So it's like, he is going to be the ultimate weapon against Homelander, because he can, like, who knows what that beam he shoots out of himself, either that's what that's supposed to be, making him the ultimate, like, he probably has, like, all his, super Soldier Boy powers on top of being able to take other people's powers. Once again, whether that's permanent, temporary. If it's permanent, Kimiko's going to be happy about that, because she wanted to be free of her powers. And then now that throws an equation in, like, that throws a wrench into all this, that he is still that weapon, which MM's not going to be too happy about utilizing Soldier Boy as a weapon, especially because it's like, oh, so we're going to track him down, convince him to go after Homelander. It's like, no, that SOB, like, I hate him to my core. So, because it'd be the equivalency of MM asking Butcher, oh, Soldier Boy needs to be taken care of, let's get Homelander to do it. It's that equivalency. So that's interesting. Like I said, I'm so fascinated to find out whether that's temporary or not. I only recently discovered it. Once again, I've not read the comics, but I think I'd heard a little bit from somebody, and do correct me in the comments down below, especially if you're more familiar with the comics. Someone was saying something that kind of made me under the impression that the whole temporary V storyline, they get to that to an earlier point in the comics, maybe. But the show kind of slow built up to it. But I think they get to that storyline even quicker in the comics. So the boys go to, like, so it seems like probably all of the boys end up using the temporary V at some point in time. So I'm curious to see if that is the case. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it, because now there are 3 people on the team potentially with powers. Currently, obviously 2 are temporary ones of full Soup, but once again, we don't know what Kimiko's status is going to be like at the end of all of this. Maybe her powers are going to be going temporarily, but given enough time, they automatically regenerate. We'll see. Because maybe it only attacked her healing factor, but maybe her superhuman strength and stuff is still there, but we'll see. I also didn't talk about it, just to kind of end on a little bit of a higher note, the whole Ashley thing, which I love that it's like, oh, that's a Homelander strap-on, like, everyone has that, I guess. And I love that, once again, everyone's just trying to feel powerful. They're trying to feel powerful over somebody else. Because Ashley says that same thing that Homelander said to her, like, oh, is your brain fucked by stupid? And Cameron Coleman's like, what if I said yes? And she's like, then I'd have to punish you. And he's like, well, how would you punish me? And she pulls out that thing, and it's like, yeah, it's her way of asserting dominance, because she, once again, everyone else is being turned into little children and by Homelander. It's like, oh, you're all beneath me. So to get back some power, I mean, like, everything between her and that director in the first episode, I think, kind of shows that. The fact that she wants her hair pulled out, like, to feel powerful in some shape or form. And I think that's a commentary, and just like, right, once again, it's that bully thing of, right, if you're bullied, there's a higher tendency that you might bully someone else, just because, like, right, someone made you feel small, so you want to make someone else feel small to make yourself feel better. So Either way, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.